example. There was a woman over at Brown University. She came out with a study that suggested that there was a phenomenon called rapid onset gender dysphoria, in which a member of a particular group would suffer from gender dysphoria, and this person's immediate peer group would suddenly have an onset of gender dysphoria. This paper was so controversial that Brown tried to pull it, and then was forced to reassign it later. You see this sort of treatment.
That's a different question. What you're asking now is, are there some topics that should not be studied scientifically?
Right.
And is there some taboo? Sam Harris speaks a lot about this.
Yes.
And I think the concern is, if you study some topic that's a hot button topic and you bring scientific methods and tools to it, we don't trust, I'm interpreting here, I think we as a society don't trust that people in charge in a free country won't try to legislate something that will constrict people's freedoms in the face of that information. I think that's the fear.
That whole argument applies to climate change perfectly.
Right.
I mean, that's exactly the climate change argument.
Yeah.
We don't trust the people in charge aren't going to legislate our freedom and, higher energy costs, all that kind of stuff.
Well, this is weird because what he's saying is true, but it sounds like I can't tell if he's just describing this as like this is what happens, or if he's like using this as an excuse, right? Because you could use this excuse for not studying any science that you don't want to be studying. Right.
Let's not study smoking. I'm afraid they're going to make smoking illegal.
Right. Or limit it, certain age groups, right?
Let's not study hallucinogens.
Right. Well, let's not study evolution because, I like that my schools teach creationism.
Yeah.
In class.
Totally.
Like you could do this with anything. These are really surprisingly bad arguments.
I know.
Tyson.
Terrible.
Well, isn't that?
It's a fear.
I mean, and isn't that?
We don't trust our own ability to govern ourselves in the face of what could be some information relative to other kinds of information.
Isn't that a bit of a problem?
Yes. Yeah. It's not. It means it's not a free society. It's not a society of free inquiry, which I think you need ultimately. But yeah.
My general take on all of this.
Oh my God. What you need, well.
So it sounds like he's saying. So it sounds like this is like a punt. Okay?
I know, totally.
Because he's like,
oh my God.
He's like describing like, okay, I'm not saying I'm in favor of this. I'm just saying this happens, but I'm not going to say I'm against it either.
I know, exactly. He basically said, yeah, it's not a free society. What are you going to do about it? Fuck it. What? Next question.
Yeah. This is, and it's unfortunate because it really does feel like he's like Neil deGrasse Tyson sees off screen. There's like the gun of cancel culture,
totally.
like pointed at his family, and he's like, I have to weave this very narrow line of acceptability.
It's torture though. It's totally torture because it's all fucking tribal nonsense. Like he doesn't care. And we'll go back to the clip where he talks about climate change. I'm sure he doesn't care if he steps on climate denialist feet.
No,
like he doesn't give a fuck.
He doesn't care at all.
Kick him in the teeth. Get out of my way.
No.
We're fucking studying this shit. Fuck off. Right? But here it's like, oh my goodness, we have to like these people, you don't understand. If we don't know anything about it, and it's like,
well, this is why I find it so weird when I argue with people about who controls the mainstream narrative.
Mm-hmm.
And whether wokeness is actually a problem or not. Because when I talk to people who are not like really tied into the quote culture war, they generally always give me the same thing. They're like, Sitch, why do you focus on this so much? The Republicans are trying to make abortion legal. They're trying to deny January 6 riots. They're trying to restrict voter rights. And I'm like, okay, all those things are happening. I'm not denying any of that. But there's but you're denying that this like massive culture was happening right now, that the left completely is dominating right now. And the dangerous thing is that the left, the mainstream left is totally asleep to this illiberal looming threat that's slowly poisoning the entire left, that's slowly poisoning the entire country. And this conversation is a perfect example of it. As you said, Neil deGrasse Tyson feels comfortable saying climate change is totally real, is going to totally be a big problem. But yet when it comes to this issue, he feels so scared because he's so worried about getting canceled that he has to thread this tiny needle.
Yeah, how is this not fucking USSR fucking Cold War shit? I just the level of authoritarianism. It's just not being able to speak your mind, not being able to say. It's just weird. It's totally weird. You know, he's suppressing what he really thinks. He's not telling what he really thinks here.
Mr. Ubercross for $20. Thank you very much, Mr. Ubercross. Says, I'm prepping for trial while I listen, but I'm digging the topic and the discussion. A team is S. A class, I'm sorry. A class is S team. Thank you, Mr. Ubercross.
Thank you.
Good luck with your trial.
Yeah, definitely. Knock him dead. Unless it's a murder trial, then like maybe you want him to live. I take it back.
This stuff from climate change to gender dysphoria to all these issues is bring out the science and then let's hash it out. I think that the problem I'm seeing on a lot of sides is,
what is your motivation?
Why? Why does that matter?
Yeah, that's so ridiculous.
Why does that matter? Yeah.
Because it's like the climate change thing. Well, the question is, what is your motivation here? Yeah, I want to know if the world's going to burn, you fucking moron. Come on. What are you asking me this for? What the fuck?
Right.
It matters because if you have political power, you could end up creating legislation that subtracts freedoms from people who previously were enjoying the same freedoms as you.
Like cheap energy, right? Or like,
what I mean, but that's true of anything.
Everything.
That's true of anything and everything.
Yes.
The history of that exercise
then make a better argument.
Doesn't end well.
Well, but the history of which exercise? Bring out all the science and let's hash it out?
I'm saying if you bring out all the science and the politicians hash it out, the history of that exercise is a recipe for disaster if it involves discoveries that put people's freedom as defined in our Constitution at risk.
But now you're arguing.
So this is... Oh my God.
I know, it's so bad. It is so bad.
As you'll see earlier in this conversation, they literally talk about evolution and how that led to like the Nazi idea of eugenics.
Totally. Yes, totally.
And even even the previous fucked up American idea about eugenics. And you could make that you could say the same thing Neil's saying about evolution. Well, why should we study this? Because this could lead us down a road where there's less human freedom, which it literally did. But it's like, okay, but that doesn't mean that we can close our eyes and stick our fingers in our ears and deny what is true just because irresponsible people will use the information irresponsibly, because stupid people will fall back on the naturalistic fallacy of things. Like, that's what we need to breed out the naturalistic fallacy from society. Okay?
Stupid people are going to come to their own conclusions anyway, and those conclusions are going to affect people's freedoms. That's already happening.
Right.
That's happening.
Or, I mean, to some extent, it doesn't even matter, because the way that this works politically is that you have politicians and you have people who are seeking power, not just politicians. You have activists. You have all these people who are seeking power. They don't care what the science is. No. They're just looking and cherry picking science, quote unquote science, quote unquote things that support what they already want to be true.
Yep, totally.
You know, when you look at Darwin and learn, of course, there are people, social Darwinists, which fed Nazism, right, and eugenics. But you part through those curtains. At the bottom of Darwin is the fact that we are all genetically connected. That's profound. It means we have...
See, that's what when he talks about evolution, he's fine creating this distinction where, like, yes, people can use the principles of evolution to create negative consequences in the world. However, we should still study it, and you can find something profound with it.
Yeah.
But when
Totally
it
in
comes
contradiction
to
to the- yeah.
gender,
Totally in contradiction to all this stuff. Someone should clip this out and clip these out right next to the sayings because they're completely contradictory here. Like in the trans part, he basically says, yeah, we don't have any freedom in this issue, so fuck it. It's like, what? Yeah, we got to keep our mouths shut about this shit. Yeah, it sucks, but that's the way it is, man. Shut the fuck up.
I think that's another reason why he could have been so nervous or like felt like he was trying to walk the tightrope, because he has to be aware that he's like trying not to contradict what he said in the beginning.
Yeah, you think so?
The conversation. Yeah. And all this is lost. All this amazing context is lost.
Yep.
To all the bread tubers who just watched that 10-minute clip and they didn't think to watch the rest of the conversation.
All of those bread tubers who hate religion, who think religion is a scourge on society, how all these trad cons are just they're trying to destroy the gay community. They're trying to eviscerate all the LGBT. Yeah.